Oh, can you feel the electric tension as Jamal Lawson stands at the towering entrance of Summit Solutions Group, his heart pounding with a mix of pride and nerves. The sleek corporate skyscraper looms above him, its glass facade gleaming in the morning sun like a challenge waiting to be conquered. Jamal, a young black man in his early 20s, adjusts his crisp red tie, his navy suit sharp and tailored, taking a deep, steadying breath before stepping into the lion's den. This is it, his first day as an intern, a role he earned through late nights, endless studying, and sheer determination. But oh, the weight of being a black man in a mostly white corporate world presses on his shoulders, an unspoken hurdle he's faced before but never lets break him. He's ready to prove himself, but little does he know the storm that's brewing inside those glass walls. As the elevator hums its way to the 23rd floor, Jamal's mind races. Nobody here knows his secret. He's the son of David Lawson, the CEO. Can you imagine carrying that truth, keeping it locked tight so you can stand on your own merits? He's not here to ride his dad's coattails, no way. This internship is about showing the world what Jamal Lawson can do, not who his father is. The elevator dings, and the doors slide open, revealing a buzzing office alive with clicking keyboards and hushed conversations. At the heart of it stands Gary Thompson, the regional manager, a tall, broad-shouldered man with thinning gray hair and a smirk that screams arrogance. His piercing eyes lock onto Jamal the second he steps out, sizing him up like prey. Oh, the audacity of this guy. Gary saunters over, his broad frame casting a shadow, not even bothering to offer a handshake, rude much. So Jamal Lawson, he drawls, his voice oozing mockery, like he's savoring every syllable. They finally got themselves a diversity hire, huh? Or maybe it's because you share the CEO's last name. He chuckles, a low, cruel sound, completely clueless that he's poking at the son of the man who runs this place. Jamal's stomach twists, the blunt racism hitting like a slap. "Excuse me," he says, his voice steady but his eyes flashing with shock. "Who does this guy think he is?" Gary's dark laugh cuts through the air, like Jamal's question is some kind of joke. "Come on, kid, you really think you're here because of your resume?" He doesn't pause, barreling on with venom.
"Let's be real. Corporates all about diversity initiative these days.
Guess you're their poster boy."
Jamales chest tightens, Angers Beublin haute bonnet school extérieur.
How dare Gary assume he's just a quota filler?
Ir ned mai placir.
Jamal says, his voice firm, refusing to let this bully see him flinch. Gary raises a bushy eyebrow, clearly unimpressed, his smirk widening. Sure, that's what they all say," he scoffs, turning on his heel like he owns the place. "Let's get this over with."
I'll show you where you'll be working.
Oh, the nerve of this man. Jamal follows in silence, his polished shoes clicking on the marble floor, his anger simmering like a storm ready to break. He's faced people like Gary before, smug types who think his success is handed to him, not earned through sweat and grit. But today? He's not giving Gary the satisfaction of a reaction. No way. Gary strides through the office at a brisk pace, barely glancing at the employees they pass, offering no explanations, like Jamal's not worth the effort. Curious eyes flick toward Jamal, some with intrigue, others darting away fast, as if afraid to be caught staring. Can you hear the whispers trailing behind him, the unspoken judgments? It's like the air itself is sizing him up.
"You'll be here,"
Gary says, stopping so suddenly Jamal nearly bumps into him. He gestures to a tiny cramped cubicle shoved in a dim corner, the kind of spot you'd give someone you want to forget. Not the best spot, but hey, you gotta start somewhere, right? Hopefully you can keep up. Wouldn't want to waste everyone's time. The sarcasm drips like poison, and Jamal's jaw clenches tight, his teeth grinding. What a way to welcome a new intern. "I'll do my best," he says, his voice polite but edged with steel, giving a curt nod. Gary leans against the cubicle wall, arms crossed, his smirk practically carved into his face. "We'll see about that. Last guy under me didn't last long, but then again, he didn't have the same advantages as you." His tone is mocking, heavy with implication. Jamal's eyes narrow, his patience thinning. "What's that supposed to mean?" he asks, his voice low but sharp, daring Gary to say it outright. Gary shrugs, playing innocent, but his grin betrays him. "Just saying, you're part of the company's new push, right? People like you, they're all about giving you opportunities these days." His smug superiority radiates, like he's won some twisted game. Let's see if you can handle it without special treatment.
Oh, the gal.
Jamal locks eyes with him, unflinching. I'm not here for special treatment, he says, his voice steady, a quiet thunder that makes Gary's smirk twitch. Gary chuckles, clearly relishing the power he thinks he holds. Sure you're not. Well, you've got today to prove it. Better get to work. He strolls off, leaving Jamal standing by his new desk, the sting of those words burning like a brand. How can someone be so openly cruel and think they'll get away with it? Jamal sinks into his chair, opening his laptop with a jolt of determination, his mind racing like a freight train. He's faced subtle racism his whole life, those sly comments, those judging glances. But Gary? He's not even pretending to hide it. And the worst part? Gary thinks he's untouchable, assuming Jamal's just some kid with no real clout here. But oh, Gary's got no idea who he's messing with. The truth about Jamal's connection to the CEO is a secret that could flip this whole game upside down, and it's only a matter of time. The day crawls by, each hour a gauntlet of Gary's relentless oversight. Every time Jamal submits a report, Gary's there, ready to tear it apart with a sneer. Jamal, this report, did you even read the instructions? He barks, looming over Jamal's desk, slapping a stack of papers against his palm like a judge passing sentence. This is sloppy.
You gotta pick up the pace if you want to last here.
Jamal's jaw tightens, his fingers digging into his palms. Sloppy? He poured hours into that. I'll fix it, he says through gritted teeth, refusing to let Gary see him crack. Gary's smirk returns, sharp as a blade.
You better.
Let me know when it's right. Don't want to lag behind the others, do you? Jamal's blood simmers. He knows exactly who Gary means by the others. The white interns, who've been showered with encouragement and leniency, while Gary's barely spared him a kind word. Can you feel the unfairness of it all? But Jamal keeps his cool, his strategy clear. Play the long game, don't let this bully rattle him off course. As the day winds down, Jamal's revising his work, his focus laser-sharp, when Gary slinks by, peering over the cubicle with that smug sneer. Not bad for a diversity hire, he says, barely glancing at the revised report, his voice laced with condescension.
Guess you're not totally Opel.
Jamal's grip on his pen tightens, the urge to snap rising like a tide. Thanks, he says, his voice calm but cold. I'll keep that in mind. Gary snickers, like he's just won another round. Don't thank me yet, kid. You've got a long way to go. Let's see if you can survive tomorrow. He struts off, reveling in his power trip, oblivious to the fire he's stoking. Oh, Jamal's not just surviving, he's plotting, and Gary's got no clue what's coming. Jamal watches him go, a storm of anger and resolve churning inside him. He's faced worse than Gary Thompson. People who doubted him dismissed him, but he's always risen above. This internship? It's his proving ground, and no racist bully's gonna shake his confidence. Tomorrow, he'll walk in fiercer, ready to tackle whatever Gary throws at him. But Gary? He's blind to the truth, that this isn't just about a job for Jamal. It's a test of wills, and both of them are in the ring. As Jamal packs up, the office now quiet, he feels the day's tension melt away, replaced by a burning determination that lights up his soul. He's not here to play nice. He's here to prove he belongs, to show the world what he's capable of.
And when the moment commence, Gary's smug world is gonna shatter.
Oh, the reckoning is near, and it's gonna be epic. The weeks that follow are a grueling marathon, each day a cycle of grinding work, relentless revisions, and Gary's unending taunts. Can you imagine the exhaustion of facing that kind of hostility every single day? Gary's made it his mission to break Jamal, seizing every chance to remind him he's just a diversity hire in his eyes. The label stings, but it only fuels Jamal's fire. He's not buckling, no way. The harder Gary pushes, the more Jamal digs in, his resolve growing like steel forged in flames. He's not giving this bully the win. It's a crisp Monday morning, the office humming with its usual chaos, and Jamal's already deep in a project, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Then bam! Gary storms over, that infuriating smirk plastered on his face, dropping a massive stack of reports on Jamal's desk with a thud that turns heads. Hope you've got time today, Jamal, he says, his voice loud enough to echo, making sure every intern hears. Need these done by end of day. Let's see if you can handle it. Don't want to disappoint, right? The condescension drips like venom, and Jamal's heart races, but he keeps his cool. He glances at the towering pile, then back at Gary, his voice steady as stone. "I'll get it done," he says, refusing to take the bait. Gary leans in, his smirk growing even uglier. "Good. Might need to work twice as hard as the others though. Don't want folks thinking you're slacking, considering why you're here." Jamal's hands grip the keyboard, his knuckles whitening. Again with the diversity hire jab. The other interns exchange awkward glances, but nobody dares speak.
Oh, the silence is deafening.
Jamal meets Gary's gaze, his eyes burning with defiance. "I've got it covered," he says, his voice calm but unyielding. Gary chuckles, clearly loving the control he thinks he has.
Déteste the spirit.
"Let's see if you can keep up with the real players." He saunters off, leaving Jamal with the crushing weight of extra work and prying eyes. Can you feel the pressure piling on? Hours tick by, and Jamal tackles the reports with meticulous care, double-checking every detail, knowing Gary's waiting for a slip-up. Gary hovers like a vulture, tossing out snide remarks whenever he passes. "Still at it, Jamal? Gotta move faster," he jabs, his voice cutting through the office hum. Jamal grits his teeth, refusing to let Gary see him sweat. He's not cracking, not today, not ever. By mid-afternoon, Jamal's nearly done, his focus unbreakable, when Gary swings by again, a few interns trailing like shadows. He eyes Jamal's progress, then shakes his head with fake disappointment, his voice booming for all to hear. "Jamal, you're not done yet. Thought you'd be quicker by now. Don't want to drag the team down, do you?" The interns shift nervously, their eyes darting between Jamal and Gary. Oh, the humiliation stings, but Jamal's not breaking. He sets his jaw, his voice steady despite the heat in his chest. "I'm almost finished." Gary's laugh is harsh, echoing like a taunt. "Almost doesn't count, Jamal. In this world, you either got it or you don't. Hope you're not banking on excuses when you fall behind." The words hang like a challenge, but Jamal looks up, his eyes calm but fierce. "I'll finish on time," he says, and for a split second, Gary's smirk falters, like he didn't expect such composure. He nods, slapping Jamal's shoulder harder than needed. "Good, good. Let's see if you can keep up." He walks off, the tension lingering like smoke. Oh, Jamal's holding his ground, but the battle's far from over. By day's end, Jamal's done, every report polished despite Gary's meddling. He drops the stack on Gary's desk as the office empties, his heart pounding with quiet triumph. Gary flips through a few pages, his face sour. "Not bad," he mutters grudgingly, like it pains him to admit it. "Guess you're not completely useless after all." Jamal stays silent, knowing any response would just feed Gary's ego. "Better get used to this workload, Jamal," Gary adds, leaning back smugly. "If you want to make it here, you'll work harder than the others. People like you don't get to coast." Oh, the arrogance. Jamal's fists clench, but he holds his tongue, turning to leave, the burn of Gary's words fueling his fire. He's not coasting, he's conquering, and Gary's about to learn that the hard way. Oh, can you feel the fire in Jamal Lawson's veins as he stands there, fists clenched tight, his every muscle coiled like a spring ready to snap? Gary Thompson, that smug, venomous regional manager, leans back in his chair, his thinning gray hair catching the harsh office light, his smirk practically dripping with cruelty. "Better get used to this kind of workload, Jamal," he sneers, his voice laced with mockery that stings like a whip. "If you want to make it here, you'll have to work harder than the others. People like you don't get the luxury of coasting by." The words hit like a punch, loaded with that ugly racist undertone that Gary doesn't even bother to hide anymore. Jamal's heart pounds, but he refuses to give Gary the satisfaction of a flinch. "I'm not here to coast," he fires back, his voice steady, a quiet thunder that makes Gary's smirk twitch just a fraction. Oh, the nerve of this bully, thinking he can break a man like Jamal. Gary's eyes glint with malicious glee, like he's savoring Jamal's restrained fury. "We'll see," he drawls, his tone thick with doubt. "You've lasted longer than I expected, but let's see how far you can really go." Jamal stays silent, knowing any reply would just fuel Gary's twisted power trip. He turns on his heel, his polished shoes clicking sharply against the office floor, the burn of Gary's words searing his chest but not dimming his resolve. No way is a racist bully like Gary Thompson going to shatter him. He's come too far, fought too hard, to let this man's hatred knock him down. As the office empties, the hum of fluorescent lights fading, Jamal packs his things, the weight of the day pressing like a boulder on his shoulders. Gary's relentless bullying is exhausting, a daily gauntlet that tests every ounce of his patience. Can you imagine the toll of proving yourself over and over, under such vicious scrutiny? But Jamal knows what's at stake: his future, his pride, his place in this world. He's playing the long game, keeping his secret close. He's the son of David Lawson, the CEO. He doesn't want special treatment, oh no. But deep down, he knows Gary's vile behavior is building a trap of his own making, and when it springs, Gary won't know what hit him. Jamal steps into the elevator, the doors sliding shut with a soft hiss, sealing him in a moment of quiet. Tomorrow's another battle, another chance to face Gary's sneers, but Jamal's ready. Oh, is he ready? He's not just here to survive this corporate jungle, he's here to conquer it, to prove he's a force no bully can stop. The weeks have hardened him, Gary's constant belittlement a grinding stone that's only sharpened his edge. Can you feel the cracks in Jamal's patience widening, the strain of holding back against such blatant hostility? Gary's made it his mission to push Jamal to the brink, always jabbing that he doesn't belong, that his internship is just some diversity checkbox. But Jamal's focus is unbreakable. He's not just surviving, he's excelling, and no amount of Gary's venom will derail him. It's midweek, and the office air feels thick, heavy with the buzz of a looming client presentation that's got everyone on edge. Jamal's at his cramped corner cubicle, his navy suit still crisp despite the long hours, his fingers flying over the keyboard as he preps critical data for the big day. Then boom! Gary's voice cuts through the office like a gunshot. "Jamal!" he barks, head swiveling as he storms over, his broad frame towering over Jamal's desk.
D'ici so wrong.
The accusation lands like a slap, and Jamal looks up, confusion knitting his brow. Wrong? He double-checked every detail, knowing Gary's eagle eyes would pounce on any flaw. "What's wrong with it?" he asks, his voice calm but edged with frustration.
Gary slams the folder down, the sound echoing like a gavel, making interne flinch.
"You didn't follow the structure I asked for. This is sloppy work." Jamal flips through the pages, his heart racing but his hands steady. "I followed the outline you gave me, Gary. If there's a mistake I can—" Gary cuts him off, his voice dripping with mockery that stings worse than the words. "Oh, so it's my fault, is it? You think you can pass the blame because you're not up to the task? Maybe that works where you're from, but here, you either get it right or you're out." The office falls silent, every ear tuned to the drama, every eye pretending not to stare. Can you feel the weight of those judgmental glances crushing Jamal? "I'm not blaming anyone," he says evenly, his voice a steel anchor in the storm. "I'll fix it if something needs adjusting." Gary's smirk deepens, his eyes gleaming with that hateful satisfaction that makes Jamal's blood boil.
"You better.
This presentation's too big for you to screw up, and I'm not covering for anyone's incompetence." Jamal's jaw clenches so tight it hurts, the racism in Gary's tone no longer veiled, it's raw, ugly, in your face. His fingers curl into fists under the desk, but he won't let Gary see him crack. No way. "I'll fix it," he says, his voice steady, a quiet defiance that makes Gary's smirk twitch. Gary shakes his head, feigning disappointment like a bad actor. "You know, Jamal, it's almost like you're proving my point. They give someone like you a chance, and this is what we get." The words sear, and Jamal's teeth grind, but he holds his ground, refusing to give Gary the outburst he's fishing for. Oh, how much longer can he keep this fire contained? Hours later, the office buzzing with last-minute prep, Jamal's at his desk, reworking the data with laser focus, his tie loosened but his determination unyielding. Gary's eyes burn into him from across the room, watching, waiting for a stumble, but Jamal's not giving him the satisfaction. At one point, Gary slinks by, pausing to lob another jab. "Better make this right, Jamal. Don't want to embarrass the team in front of the client. We've got enough eyes on us, don't we?" The sneer in his voice is like nails on a chalkboard, but Jamal looks up, his gaze steady, a fire smoldering behind his calm. "It'll be ready," he says, his tone measured but fierce. Gary chuckles, shaking his head like he's already won. "Sure it will." He struts off, leaving Jamal simmering, the urge to call out this racist bully roaring inside him. But he knows, oh he knows, now's not the time. His dad's advice echoes like a mantra: let them underestimate you. That's how you win. The next day, the big presentation dawns. and the conference rooms packed with senior executives, their suits crisp and faces stern. Gary's front and center, playing the competent leader with his chest puffed out, but Jamal's in the back, watching quietly, his navy suit sharp, his heart steady. He spent hours perfecting the data, every number flawless, but will Gary ever give him credit? No way. The presentation hums along smoothly until a client fires off a tricky technical question about the data. Gary freezes, his face blank, his eyes darting to his team in panic. Can you see the cracks in his facade? Jamal seizes the moment, standing tall, his voice clear and confident. Actually, I can explain that. All eyes swing to him, the room heavy with pressure, but Jamal strides to the table, his red tie bold against his suit, walking the client through the analysis with razor-sharp precision. When he's done, the client nods, impressed, and executives exchange approving glances. Take that, Gary. But Gary? He looks like he's choking on a lemon, his forced smile barely hiding his fury. That's one way to look at it, he says, scrambling to reclaim control. Good job, Jamal. Guess the extra work paid off. Jamal nods politely, but he sees the rage in Gary's eyes, not just because he saved the day, but because he did it in front of everyone, exposing Gary's weakness.
What a moment.
After the meeting, Jamal's back at his desk, adrenaline still pumping, his heart soaring with quiet triumph. He nailed it, and even if Gary won't admit it, he proved his worth. But later that afternoon, Gary storms over, his face twisted in a fake smile that doesn't reach his cold eyes. Don't think that little stunt in there changes anything, he hisses, his voice low but venomous. You might have impressed them, but I know the truth. You're still just a diversity hire, Jamal.
You don't belong here.
The words cut deep, but Jamal's not backing down, not today. I belong here just as much as anyone else, he says, his voice calm but hard as steel, his eyes locked on Gary's. Gary's smile morphs into a sneer, his arrogance oozing. We'll see about that.
Don't get too cozy. You haven't earned a thing yet.
Jamal stands, facing Gary head-on for the first time, his posture unyielding, his heart pounding with defiance.
I'm not going anywhere.
For a split second, Gary's smugness wavers, his eyes flickering as he sizes Jamal up, then he turns and stalks off without a word. Oh, what a victory, small but sweet. Jamal sinks back into his chair, his hands trembling just a bit, the thrill of standing his ground mixing with the weight of knowing Gary won't quit. He'll keep pushing, keep bullying, but today? Today was a win, and more are coming. Gary's time is running out, and when the truth about Jamal's identity hits, he'll be left in the dust. As the office clears out, Jamal lingers, reviewing his work, his mind sharp. He's got a plan, and no amount of Gary's venom will derail it. He's playing the long game and he's winning. Oh, is he winning? Because while Gary sees him as a diversity hire, Jamal knows the truth. And soon, everyone else will too. The next morning, Jamal arrives early, his focus like a laser, the previous day's triumph still fueling him. Something shifted, he showed his worth to the executives, and Gary's mask cracked. But will Gary back off?
Ah, no chance.
As Jamal settles at his desk, Gary slinks over, his face twisted in that familiar smirk, dropping a fresh stack of paperwork with a thud. More work for you, he says, his grin forced, his eyes cold. After your little show yesterday, I'm curious if you can keep it up. Jamal doesn't flinch, eyeing the pile, busy work meant to bury him. Gary's trying to push him over the edge, but Jamal's ready. I'll get it done, he says, his voice even, giving nothing away. Gary leans in, his voice a low hiss that chills the air. Think you wowed everyone yesterday, don't you? Don't get comfy, you're still here to fill a quota. You don't belong, and I'll make sure you know it soon enough. Jamal's gaze doesn't waver, his heart steady. I earned my place here, and you'll see that soon enough. Gary's smirk falters, but he recovers, straightening with a scoff. We'll see. He walks off, leaving Jamal with the pointless work, but Jamal's not shaken, he's steeled. His mind races, but he dives into the task, refusing to let Gary's taunts distract him. Later that afternoon, his phone buzzes, a message from his father, David Lawson. Meet me in the garage at 6 p.m. Jamal's heart skips, his dad. They've kept their bond secret to let Jamal prove himself, but now?
Is the moment coming?
As the office empties, Jamal finishes his work, grabs his bag, and heads to the parking garage, his steps quick, anticipation and nerves swirling.
The underground l'OSQ, the hum of distant trafficerie.
In the far corner, his father's sleek black car gleams, and David Lawson steps out, a tall, imposing figure in a charcoal suit, his presence commanding. Jamal feels the tension crackle as they face each other in the dim light. Oh, what's about to unfold? Oh, can you feel the weight of that moment as Jamal Lawson stands in the dimly lit parking garage, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest? He faces his father, David Lawson, the CEO of Summit Solutions Group, and the air crackles with unspoken tension. "Dad," Jamal says quietly, his voice barely above a whisper, his uncertainty hanging like a storm cloud. "How do you even start a conversation like this?" David, a towering figure in his sharp charcoal suit, nods, his face stoic, unreadable, like a fortress guarding his thoughts. "Jamal," he replies, and for a heartbeat, they stand in silence, the hum of distant traffic echoing in the concrete space, the air thick with words they've both held back for weeks. Finally, David breaks the quiet, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "I've been watching." Jamal's heart lurches, watching. He always knew his dad kept tabs on the company, but hearing it now twists his stomach into knots. "Gary," David says, his tone sharp, his eyes narrowing, "has been testing you." Jamal nods, his frustration erupting like a volcano, the words spilling out raw and fierce. "It's more than testing, Dad. He's a bully, and he's not even hiding his racism. Every single day, he makes it crystal clear he thinks I'm just some diversity hire, not here because I earned it." Can you imagine the sting of that, day after day? David's jaw tightens, his eyes flashing with a quiet fury that makes the air feel heavier. "I know," he says, his voice low but laced with steel. "And it's worse than I ever expected."
Jamal hésitate, his mind racing like a runaway train.
Why hasn't his dad stepped in? "So why haven't you done anything about it?" he demands, his voice rising, the hurt and anger bubbling over. David sighs, running a hand through his graying hair, the weight of his decision etched in his tired eyes. "Because I wanted to see how far he'd go. I wanted to see how you'd handle it, Jamal." Jamal's frustration explodes, his hands gesturing wildly in the dim light. "So you've just been watching me deal with this? Letting him push me around, waiting for something to happen?" The betrayal stings, sharp and raw. How could his own father let him endure this? David raises a hand, his voice firm but calm, cutting through Jamal's storm. "Jamal, you asked to do this on your own. You didn't want special treatment, and I respected that. I didn't ask for this." Jamal shoots back, his voice cracking with emotion. "I didn't ask to be bullied every day." David's expression softens, just a flicker, but his tone stays resolute.
"And you veux handled it better than he could ve imagined."
"But now it's time for me to step in." Jamal takes a shaky breath, trying to rein in the whirlwind inside him. "What are you going to do?" he asks, his eyes searching his father's face for answers. David's gaze is intense, like a general planning a strike. "I've been gathering intel on Gary, his behavior, his performance, his history. He's been on thin ice for a while, and this?
This is the final straw."
"But I need you to be ready, Jamal." Jamal frowns, his heart still racing.
"Ready for what?"
David's voice lowers, his words heavy with purpose. "For the moment I reveal who you really are." Jamal freezes, his breath catching. Reveal. They'd agreed to keep his identity as the CEO's son a secret, a shield to let him prove himself without his father's name paving the way. But now that shield's about to drop. "When?" he asks, his voice barely a whisper, the weight of it all crashing down. David's expression hardens, his eyes like steel. "Soon. There's a board meeting coming up, and Gary's been angling for a promotion. I'm gonna let him think he's got it in the bag, then boom. When the time's right, I'll expose him." Jamal's heart races, the thought of unveiling his truth in front of everyone, especially Gary, sending a thrill and terror through him. Can you imagine standing in that spotlight, your secret laid bare? David places a strong hand on Jamal's shoulder, his voice steady but warm. "I know this hasn't been easy, Jamal, but you've proven yourself. Soon, everyone will see who you really are, and Gary? He'll face the consequences of his actions." Jamal nods, the gravity of the moment settling like a mantle on his shoulders. "I'm ready," he says, his voice firm, a spark of defiance igniting within. David gives a small nod, his face softening just a touch, a rare glimpse of pride breaking through. Good. Stay focused, and don't let him push you any further.
When the time comes, you'll be the one standing tall, Jamal.
Jamal watches as his father steps back toward his sleek black car, the engine purring softly. And Jamal. David calls, turning back, his voice warm but commanding. I'm proud of you. You've shown real strength. Jamal's chest tightens, emotion swelling as he nods. Thanks, Dad.
David slid into the car and drove off, the taillight fading into the garage's shadow, leaving Jamal alone in the dim light.
His mind's racing. Oh, is it racing? The reality of what's coming sinking in like a tidal wave. Everything's about to change. Soon, Gary's smug world will crumble when he learns Jamal's the CEO's son. Jamal's ready, more than ready. He's not just an intern, he's a force, and soon, everyone will know it. The office hums with anticipation as the board meeting looms, a crackling energy that's more than just pre-meeting jitters.
Can you feel the storm brewing?
Gary struts around all day, his thinning hair slicked back, his gray suit straining against his ego, radiating confidence like he's already got that promotion in his pocket. But Jamal? He knows this isn't Gary's big break, it's the beginning of his end. The meeting's in full swing when Jamal catches sight of his father in the conference room, David Lawson looking cool as ice, chatting animatedly with executives, Gary fawning like a puppy desperate for a treat. Jamal stays at his desk, his fingers tapping away, trying to focus on work but his heart pounding with the looming reveal. An hour later, the meeting wraps, and Gary bursts out, his smile wide enough to split his face, clearly thinking he's nailed it. David trails behind, his face a mask of calm, unreadable as always. Jamal watches from his cubicle, catching the brief electric eye contact his dad makes before turning back to Gary. The two chat in the hallway, all smiles and handshakes, looking like they're swapping company secrets, relaxed, almost jovial. But Jamal knows better. Oh, does he know? His dad's playing the long game, setting the trap, and Gary's walking right into it. As Jamal gathers his things, ready to head out, he passes the conference room, his mind on the day's end. But then bam! David's voice stops him cold. Jamal, come here for a second. Jamal's pulse spikes, but he steadies himself, walking over to where his father and Gary stand. Gary's smile doesn't waver, but there's a flicker in his eyes. Surprise? Annoyance? Oh, he's got no idea what's coming. David gestures casually.
Gary, this is Jamal.
He's one of the interns here, right? Gary's smile tightens, his nod curt. Oh yeah, Jamal, of course. He's been around. David raises an eyebrow, his tone neutral but curious. Tell me about him. How's he doing? Gary's smirk creeps back, and Jamal braces himself. Here it comes. Well, Gary starts, his voice light but dripping with condescension. Jamal's been doing okay. I mean, you know how interns are, they try hard, but it's a steep learning curve for some. He shoots a sideways glance at Jamal, his eyes glinting smugly. Not everyone's cut out for this work, you know. Oh, the gall of this man. David nods slowly, his face thoughtful, unreadable. I see. Has he had any issues?
Gary shrugged, relishing the moment.
Nothing major, but you know, some folks need more guidance. They don't always come in with the same skills as others. Takes time to catch up. Jamal's blood boils, the same old jabs at his competence, cloaked in just enough deniability to dodge a fight. But today? Today's different, his dad's right there watching. Jamal's jaw clenches, and he decides he's done staying quiet. With all due respect, Gary, he says, his voice firm but steady, I've done every task you've given me on time, no issues. If there's a problem, it's not my skills, it's the obstacles you keep throwing in my way. Gary's smile freezes, his eyes narrowing, the friendly mask cracking. Watch yourself, Jamal, he warns, his voice low, menacing. Don't get ahead of yourself. I've been patient, but you've got a lot to learn. Jamal doesn't back down, his gaze locked on Gary's, defiance burning bright.
Il veut lire net planti.
Like how some people think they can say anything if they wrap it in polite words.
The hallway ghostille, the air électrique with tension.
Gary's face reddens, his rage barely contained, and he turns to David, forcing a laugh.
Irdis. Qui des got nerve.
Lots of potential, sure, but sometimes they need a reminder of their place.
Oh, the audacity.
Jamal's heart thunders, but he holds his ground, seeing Gary scramble to keep control. David stays silent, his calm a stark contrast to Gary's fuming, his eyes flicking to Jamal, signaling he's watching every move. Gary, bolstered by the quiet, leans closer, his voice a venomous whisper.
Be careful, kid.
You think you've got something to prove, but you're not as smart as you think. Jamal's pulse races, but he's fearless. I know exactly what I'm doing. The standoff's palpable, like the office itself is holding its breath, watching this clash unfold. Gary's face flushes, his professional veneer crumbling, and he glances at David, desperate for backup, but David's silent, the silence heavy, suffocating. Finally, David speaks, his voice calm but weighted. Interesting.
Gary blank, confused.
What? David's face stays blank, but his words carry power. This whole conversation's been interesting. We'll have more to discuss later. Gary, flustered, tries to recover. Of course, Mr. Lawson. I'll be sure to. David raises a hand, cutting him off. That'll be all for now, Gary. Gary's mouth opens, then shuts, his uncertainty raw. He nods stiffly and walks away, his steps heavy, the tension trailing like a shadow. Jamal stands there, his heart pounding, the weight of the moment sinking in. David looks at him, a glint of pride in his eyes. Good work today, Jamal. Go home, get some rest. Jamal nods, gratitude swelling, and walks away, the tension easing as he leaves. Oh, the truth's coming, and Gary's world's about to shatter. The office buzzes with a palpable charge when Jamal gets a message summoning him to the CEO's office. Gary's still strutting, oblivious to the trap closing around him, but Jamal?
Et knows, this is the moment everything change. Oh, what a reckoning away.
Oh, can you feel the pulse-pounding anticipation as Jamal Lawson strides toward the CEO's office at exactly 11 a.m., his heart hammering like a drum in his chest. The sleek corridors of Summit Solutions Group hum with corporate energy, but for Jamal, every step feels like a march toward destiny. As he nears the imposing wooden door, there's Gary Thompson, lounging outside with that infuriating smug grin plastered across his face, his thinning gray hair slicked back, his gray suit straining against his arrogance. But wait, there's a flicker of confusion in Gary's eyes, like he's not quite sure what this meeting's about. Is he really that clueless? Jamal's stomach twists into a knot, but he steels himself, his navy suit crisp, his red tie bold, determined to keep his cool.
This is it. The moment everything change.
The assistant swings the door open, motioning them inside with a polite nod, and Jamal and Gary step into David Lawson's office, a vast, commanding space that amplifies the tension like a thunderstorm brewing. The polished mahogany desk gleams under soft lighting, floor-to-ceiling windows framing a glittering city skyline, and there sits David, the CEO, his face an unreadable mask of calm authority. He gestures for them to sit, his charcoal suit exuding power. Jamal slides into a chair quietly, his hand steady but his heart racing, while Gary settles in, shifting uncomfortably, his eyes darting between Jamal and David like a cornered animal. What's he sensing? Does he feel the trap closing? Thank you both for coming. David begins, his voice calm but firm, slicing through the heavy air like a blade. He locks eyes with Gary, his gaze sharp enough to cut glass. There are some issues we need to address today. Gary sits up straighter, puffing out his chest, slipping into his smoothest professional act. Of course, Mr. Lawson. Whatever you need, he says, his voice dripping with false sincerity. Oh, the nerve of this guy, thinking he can charm his way through this. David's eyes flick to Jamal for a split second, a silent signal that sends a jolt through him, before turning back to Gary. Gary, you've worked with Jamal during his internship, correct? Gary nods quickly, his smile tight, clearly unsure where this is headed. Yes. Jamal's one of the interns I've been overseeing. David's expression stays neutral, a poker face that hides the storm beneath. And how would you say he's performed under your supervision? Gary forces a smile, but it's strained, his lips twitching. He's doing his best. There's been a learning curve, of course. Some interns take longer to adjust, especially in high-pressure environments like ours. The condescension in his voice is thick, and Jamal's chest tightens. Can you believe this guy? David nods thoughtfully, his calm unnerving. Interesting. And do you believe Jamal has the potential to succeed here? Gary hesitates, the question catching him like a hook, his eyes darting to Jamal, his lips curling into a slight sneer. Well, Mr. Lawson, to be honest, I've had to give him a bit more attention than the others. He's needed more guidance. It's clear he doesn't come from the same kind of background as some of the others. The word background lands like a slap, loaded with that ugly racist undertone Jamal's heard too many times.
Can you feel the tension thickening, the air in the room turning electric?
David's face remains unreadable, but Jamal senses the shift, the trap tightening. So you're saying Jamal has struggled more than the other interns? David asks, his voice even, deceptively calm. Gary leans forward, eager to cement his narrative, his smirk growing. Yes. I mean, I've tried to be patient with him, but well, not everyone's cut out for this kind of work. Some people, they just aren't built for it, you know. The subtle racism hangs heavy, and Jamal's patience finally snaps like a taut wire. He locks eyes with Gary, his voice steady but fierce, cutting through the room like a sword. I've done every task you've assigned, on time, without issue. Any problems I've had come from you trying to sabotage me, not my abilities. Oh, the fire in those words. Gary's face twists with irritation, his professional mask cracking like brittle glass. Excuse me, he snaps, but Jamal doesn't flinch, his voice growing stronger, unyielding. You've been undermining me since day one. You've made it clear you don't think I belong here, and now you're spinning it like I'm the problem. Gary's eyes blaze with anger, his fists clenching, and he wheels on David, his voice rising in desperation. Mr. Lawson, this is ridiculous. This kid's trying to set me up. He's been playing the victim this whole time, and now he's accusing me of. David raises a hand, his voice slicing through Gary's outburst like a guillotine.
Gary, calm down.
But Gary's too far gone, his face reddening, his words sharp and venomous as he turns back to Jamal.
You think you're smart, don't you?
You think you can waltz in here and play the race card? I should have expected this from someone like you. The venom in his voice is raw, unfiltered. Can you believe he's saying this out loud? Jamal's chest tightens, but he stands his ground, his voice steady despite the fury inside. What's that supposed to mean? Gary sneers, his disdain pouring out like poison. You know exactly what I mean. This is what you people do, set folks like me up, make us look like the bad guys. And you, he jabs a finger at Jamal, you've been planning this the whole time, haven't you? Jamal stares him down, his heart pounding but his face calm, a quiet strength radiating. You did this to yourself, he says, each word a hammer strike, and Gary's eyes flash with rage, his desperation surging as he turns to David.
Monsieur Lawson, you can't believe this.
He's been trying to get me fired from the start. This was all a setup. David leans forward, his voice cold and steady, a glacier moving to crush everything in its path. Gary, I've been watching.
I've seen everything.
And what you've done, how you've treated Jamal, the things you've said, it's all been unacceptable. Gary's face drains of color, the realization hitting like a sledgehammer. He opens his mouth, but no words come, his smugness evaporating. And there's one more thing you should know. David continues, his voice cutting through the silence like a thunderclap. Jamal is my son. The room goes deathly silent, the air sucked out as Gary's eyes widen, his face twisting in disbelief and horror. Your son? He gasps, his voice barely a croak. David nods slowly, his gaze unyielding. Yes. My son. The intern you've been belittling, bullying, and harassing for weeks. Gary's hands tremble, his face a chaotic mix of rage and panic. I didn't know. I swear if I had known. It shouldn't have mattered. David interrupts, his voice low, firm, a quiet fury that shakes the room. It shouldn't matter if he's my son or not. No one should be treated the way you've treated Jamal. Gary slumps, deflated, his mouth hanging open, like he's still grappling with a bombshell that just obliterated his world. He glares at Jamal, his eyes narrowing with bitter anger.
You set me up.
Jamal meets his gaze, unyielding, his voice steady as stone. I didn't set you up. You did this all on your own. Gary's face flushes with fury, his voice rising in a final desperate snarl.
I should have known.
I should have expected this from a... David stands, his voice booming like a judge's gavel.
That enough.
Gary's words choke off, his face paling as he meets David's icy stare, fear swallowing his bravado. He tries to speak, but David's glare silences him.
Yurdonir, Gary.
David says, his tone final, unappealable.
Pack your things.
You're no longer part of this company. Gary's face twists with desperation, but he knows he's cornered. He stands shakily, shooting one last venomous glance at Jamal, his footsteps heavy as he stumbles out, defeated. The door closes with a soft click, and the weight of the moment settles like a tidal wave. David turns to Jamal, his expression softening, a flicker of warmth breaking through. You handled that well. Jamal nods, exhaustion and relief washing over him like a cool breeze. Thanks, Dad. David steps closer, placing a strong hand on his shoulder, his voice thick with pride. This wasn't easy, I know. But it's over.
You've proven yourself.
Jamal looks into his father's eyes, seeing unmistakable pride that lifts his heart. I just wanted to do it on my own. And you did. David says, his voice warm, steady.
You've earned your plaisir. Jamal no, a heavy burden lifting, Gary's shadow finally gone, the truth shining bright.
The long game's over, and Jamal's won. Oh, has he won. The next week at Summit Solutions Group feels like a new dawn. Gary's sudden exit leaves a void, filled with hushed whispers and curious glances, but no one dares ask Jamal directly. The shift is undeniable, respect now, a quiet nod to his endurance, his triumph. Jamal feels lighter, like a chain's been cut, his shoulders free at last. At his desk, Jamal reviews a report, his focus calm, unshaken, no longer braced for Gary's sneers or sabotage. He's free to shine, his intelligence blazing without obstruction. Later, he's in his father's office, the city skyline glowing through the windows, David standing pensive, gazing out. Jamal enters quietly, waiting.
How do you feel?
David asks, turning, his face warm but searching. Jamal breathes deep, pondering. Relieved, he admits, but also ready. David's eyebrow lifts. Ready.
Yeah.
Jamal says, his voice steady, brimming with purpose.
Ready for what is next.
I spent so long proving I could handle Gary, now I want to focus on the work, make a real difference here. David nods, a small smile tugging his lips. You've proven more than enough, Jamal. You handled it with integrity, even when it was tough. Jamal meets his dad's gaze, feeling the warmth of approval like sunlight. I just wanted to earn my place. And you did. David replies, stepping closer, his voice rich with pride. Not just as my son, but as a true leader. I'm so proud of you. Jamal smiles, a weight he didn't know he carried dissolving, his father's words a balm. Thanks, Dad. That means a lot. David's hand rests on Jamal's shoulder, serious but kind.
Now, look ahead.
You've got a bright future here, Jamal, and I know you'll make it your own. Jamal nods, certainty flooding him, the path clear for the first time. Meanwhile, Gary Thompson's a ghost of his former self, his arrogance shattered by the humiliation of his firing. In his cramped, cluttered apartment, he stares blankly at the TV, the industry's doors slammed shut, his reputation in tatters. How did he miss it? How could he not see Jamal's power? His days are bitter, replaying his downfall, but slowly regret creeps in, a dawning realization of the cost of his cruelty, not just to Jamal, but to everyone he tore down.
Oh, what a fool.
Oh, can you feel the bitter chill of regret seeping into Gary Thompson's bones as he sits alone in his cramped, dimly lit apartment, the shadows of his past looming like ghosts? For the first time, Gary's mind churns with the weight of his own words, the venom he spat at Jamal Lawson, the cruel jabs he hurled at others over the years. He built his career on tearing people down, stomping on their dreams to climb higher, convinced his ruthless tactics were the only path to success. And now? Nothing. Absolutely nothing to show for it but a tarnished name and a life in ruins. Gary's heart sinks as he realizes his time as a bully has cost him everything, his job, his pride, his future. What has he done? The truth hits like a sledgehammer, leaving him hollow, wondering what's next in a world that's turned its back on him. Meanwhile, back at Summit Solutions Group, Jamal Lawson stands by the towering window of his father's office, gazing out at the city below, the sunset painting the skyline in warm hues of gold and pink. Can you feel the peace washing over him, a serenity he hasn't known in months? The weight of Gary's relentless bullying, those constant sneers and racist taunts, has finally lifted, replaced by a deep sense of triumph.
Ready to head out?
David Lawson asks, stepping beside him, his charcoal suit crisp, his voice warm with pride. Jamal nods, a swell of accomplishment rising in his chest. Yeah, I am, he says, his voice steady, brimming with hope. As they leave the office together, walking side by side, Jamal's heart soars. This isn't just an end, it's a glorious beginning. The path ahead stretches wide open, free from the burden of proving himself to doubters like Gary. Now he can focus on what truly matters, building something meaningful, not just for himself but for others like him, blazing a trail for those who faced the same battles.
Gary's downfall? Inévitable.
But Jamal's rise? Oh, it's just getting started, and nothing can stop him now. Months have passed since Gary's abrupt, humiliating firing from Summit Solutions Group, but for him, time drags like a slow, torturous nightmare. Can you imagine the monotony of his days, waking up in that dreary, cluttered apartment, the walls closing in, the silence deafening? Every morning's the same, sitting at a wobbly table, sending out resumes to companies that never reply, receiving nothing but cold silence or curt rejections that sting like slaps. The once proud regional manager, who strutted through corporate halls with his head high, his gray suit tailored to perfection, is now a broken man, his reputation shattered beyond repair. No one in the industry will touch him. How could they? Word of his disgraceful exit spread like wildfire, and worse, the ugly truth of his toxic behavior toward Jamal, the CEO's son, clings to every application like a dark shadow, poisoning his chances. Gary's no longer the confident leader he fancied himself. He's the guy who crossed the line, exposed for his cruelty, and oh, what a fall. Gary slumps over his phone, the screen's dim glow casting harsh lines on his weary face, his hand hovering over one name, David Lawson. Can you believe he's even considering this? David, the man who could still turn his life around with just a word, a reference to salvage his career. Desperation gnaws at Gary's gut, but his tattered pride fights back, until now. He takes a shaky breath, his finger trembling as he presses the call button. The phone rings once, twice, and then bam! David's voice, calm and controlled as ever, cuts through.
David Lawson speaking.
Gary's throat tightens, his heart pounding so hard he can barely breathe. For a moment, he's frozen, the words he rehearsed stuck like glue. Gary. David prompts, his tone cool, professional, a stark reminder of Gary's fall from grace. Gary swallows hard, his voice small, weaker than he's ever heard it. Yes, Mr. Lawson. It's me.
David pause, the silence heavy, suffocating.
What can I do for you, Gary? He asks, no warmth, just that steely professionalism that makes Gary's stomach drop. Oh, how far he's fallen.
I need your help.
Gary stammers, his voice cracking, raw with desperation. I've been trying to find work, any work. But no one will hire me. I've applied everywhere, and they either ignore me or say I'm not a good fit. David stays silent, waiting, and Gary's throat tightens again, but he pushes on, his words tumbling out faster, his control slipping. I know I made mistakes, he says, his voice rising, pleading. I know I crossed lines I shouldn't have, but I've learned from it. I swear I have. I just need another chance, something to get back on my feet. He pauses, scraping together the last shards of his pride, his voice dropping to a near whisper. I was hoping maybe you could give me a reference. Just something so they know I'm not
that guy anymore. Can you feel the desperation dripping from every word?
The silence on the line is deafening, a void that swallows Gary's hope. His heart races, his palms sweaty, as he waits for David's reply. Has he really sunk this low, begging the man whose son he tormented? Finally, David speaks, his voice cold, measured, like a judge delivering a verdict.
You want me to give you a reference, Gary?
Gary winces, the question slicing through his fragile pride. Oh, how pitiful he must sound. Yes, please, he chokes out. I know I don't deserve it, but without one, I don't have a chance.
I need this, Monsieur Lawson.
David's silence stretches, and Gary can almost hear the gears turning, each second an eternity. When David speaks, his voice carries a quiet intensity that makes Gary's stomach plummet. You're right about one thing, Gary, he says, his words sharp as a blade. You don't deserve it. The way you treated Jamal, my son, was reprehensible. You undermined him, bullied him, said things I won't soon forget. You should have been fired long before you were. Gary's breath catches, but he stays silent, knowing any interruption would seal his doom. I watched you for months, tearing down those beneath you, thinking you were untouchable. David continues, his voice growing sharper, a righteous fury building.
And now you come to me, asking for a favor.
Gary, this isn't about second chances, it's about accountability. You never owned what you did, and now you're paying the price. Gary's throat burns, a lump rising as desperation claws at him. Mr. Lawson, please, he begs, his voice breaking.
I veux lire ned my leçon.
I swear I'm not the same person.
I juste need someone to believe in me again.
David's sigh is heavy, almost resigned, a sound that crushes Gary's fading hope. It's not that simple, Gary. You hurt people. You built yourself up by tearing others down, and now you face the consequences. No one owes you anything, not me, and certainly not Jamal. Gary grips the phone, his knuckles white, his last shred of hope slipping away. I'll do anything, he whispers, his voice barely audible. Please. A long pause hangs, and for a fleeting moment, Gary thinks he's broken through. But David's next words are calm, final, like a door slamming shut. You made your bed, Gary, he says quietly. Now you have to lie in it. The line clicks, the call ending with a brutal finality that leaves Gary staring at his phone in disbelief.
HIS last chance, is desperate plea for redemption, riped away like a lifeline cut.
The reality crashes over him like a tidal wave, and for the first time, Gary sees there's no escape. His actions, his cruelty, have consequences he never grasped until now. He drops the phone, his hands trembling, sinking into the couch, the weight of his choices crushing him like never before.
Oh, what a reckoning.
There's no glowing reference, no return to his old life. The world's moved on, leaving him to gather the wreckage of his arrogance alone. But back at Summit Solutions Group, it's a quiet golden afternoon in David Lawson's office, the sun streaming through vast windows, casting a warm glow over the polished wood desk. Jamal Lawson steps in, a relaxed smile lighting his face, his navy suit sharp, his confidence radiating like never before.
Can you feel the transformation?
The months since Gary's fall have reshaped him, not just in the company but in his soul. He stepped into his role with a blazing purpose, knowing he's earned every inch of his place. David leans back in his chair, a small smile tugging his lips, his eyes warm with pride.
How is everything going, Jamal?
Jamal nods, settling into a chair, his voice steady, brimming with optimism. Pretty well, actually. We're making headway on the new projects, and the team's finally hitting its stride. David nods, his approval clear. I've been hearing good things. You've done a remarkable job. Jamal smiles, but there's a shift in David's tone, a hint of something deeper that makes him raise an eyebrow.
What is up, Dad? You sound like you've got something on your mind.
David chuckles lightly, his expression softening.
Ido.
It's about Gary. Jamal's face shifts, a flicker of surprise. He hasn't thought of Gary in ages, not since that bully vanished from the company's orbit. David leans forward, his voice gentle but serious. He called me a few days ago, begging for a reference.
Jamal essays widen. Can you believe the audacity?
You're kidding, he exclaims, shaking his head in disbelief. David shakes his head, his smile tinged with gravity.
No.
He was desperate, said no one would hire him without one. He sounded like a broken man. Jamal frowns, Gary's venomous words echoing faintly in his memory. What did you say?
David's smile old and of steel.
I told him no. I told him he made his bed, and now he's got a lie in it. Jamal leans back, the weight of those words sinking in, a quiet satisfaction blooming in his chest. Oh, the justice of it. Knowing the man who tried to crush him is now reaping what he sowed feels right. Wow. Jamal says softly, shaking his head. I can't believe he had the nerve to ask.
The story is over, and Jamal's victory shine brighter than ever.
Oh, can you feel the electric spark of justice in the air as David Lawson chuckles, his voice rich with a knowing edge that cuts through the quiet of his sunlit office. People like Gary always do, he says, shaking his head, a wry smile playing on his lips. They think they can dodge the consequences if they just spin the right words. But I wasn't letting him slink away from what he did, not after everything he put you through, Jamal. The weight of those words lands like a triumphant drumbeat, and Jamal nods, a wave of closure washing over him like a cool breeze after a storm. I guess that's the end of that, he says, his voice steady, a quiet victory shining in his eyes. Can you believe it's finally over? David's expression softens, his stern features melting into a glow of pride that lights up the room, his eyes glinting with a father's love. It is, son. And it's all because of how you handled yourself, Jamal. You could have lashed out, made it ugly, thrown punches with words, but you didn't. You let your work, your integrity, roar louder than any outburst ever could. Jamal's chest swells, a radiant pride blooming inside him, his smile wide and genuine. Thanks, Dad, he says, his voice warm, gratitude threading through every syllable. Oh, what a moment to hear such praise from the man who's guided him through this fire. David rises from his chair, his charcoal suit crisp, and strides over to his son, placing a strong, steady hand on Jamal's shoulder, his touch a grounding force. You've proven yourself in more ways than one, Jamal, he says, his voice thick with emotion. I couldn't be prouder of the man you've become. Jamal looks up, meeting his father's gaze, the weight of those words wrapping around him like a warm embrace. No more doubts, no more questioning his place in Summit Solutions Group or the world. He faced Gary's venom, those cruel racist taunts, head-on, and came out stronger, forged in grace and grit. Thanks. Jamal says, standing tall, his voice firm but heartfelt. I wouldn't be here without your support, Dad. Can you feel the bond between them, unbreakable and fierce? David's smile is warm, his eyes twinkling with a quiet joy. It's been a pleasure watching you grow, Jamal. I know there's so much more ahead for you. As they stand side by side, gazing out at the city skyline, the sunset casting a golden glow over the skyscrapers, Jamal's heart brims with deep contentment. The future stretches wide open, a canvas of endless possibilities, and with the shadow of Gary's bullying finally gone, he's ready, oh so ready, for whatever comes next. The long game's done, and Jamal's emerged victorious, not just in the office but in life itself.
Gary Thompson's chapter?
Slammed shut. But Jamal's story? It's just beginning, and he's ready to write a future that shines, unstoppable and bold. Oh, what a powerful story of resilience and justice. Jamal Lawson's journey in Racist Manager Bullies Black Employee, unaware that he is the CEO's son, left me deeply moved, my heart swelling with admiration for his strength and integrity. Facing Gary Thompson's relentless racist bullying, those cruel sneers and undermining jabs, Jamal could have crumbled, but instead he stood tall, his quiet determination a beacon of hope. Can you imagine the weight of carrying such hostility every day, yet choosing to let your work speak louder than anger? His grace under fire is nothing short of inspiring, a testament to the power of perseverance in the face of prejudice.
Gary's downfall. Oh, it like a thunderclap.
His arrogance, thinking he could belittle Jamal without consequence, only to learn Jamal was the CEO's son, what a reckoning. Yet, it's not just about his firing, it's the bitter regret that consumes him, the realization that his cruelty cost him everything. That shift from smug entitlement to a broken man staring at a silent phone stirred a pang of pity in me, but also a fierce satisfaction that justice prevailed. Actions have consequences, and Gary's story is a stark reminder of that truth. David Lawson's pride in Jamal, that warm, steady support, brought tears to my eyes. Their bond, forged through shared struggle and triumph, underscores the value of family and belief in one's potential. Jamal's victory isn't just personal, it's a beacon for anyone facing discrimination, proving that integrity and hard work can shatter barriers. This story's emotional depth, from pain to triumph, resonates deeply, urging us to confront injustice with courage and to believe in the power of rising above. Jamal's not just a winner.